All right, ladies and gentlemen, it is your favorite dark sorcerer here. Give me just a second here. I'm trying to get rid of something that popped up on my screen. There we go. Hello, Holly. All right. Now that I got rid of that, whatever the hell that was. So, anyways, the title is basically self explanatory. Worth ethics. And what the hell is this shit? Fucking A. So there we go. All right. Something else just popped up, and I'm not sure what the hell that is, but okay. Anyways, work ethics within magical workings. Okay, it's very straightforward. And a lot of individuals who come into the left hand path or right hand path workings, be it white light or dark sorcery type aspects, such as Satanism or demonolatry or just basically basically the overall darker side of things. They don't really understand the need for work ethics. They think it's all about going out and attacking everybody. They think it's all about cursing and hexing just for shits and giggles. Somebody said no to them. Oh, we got to curse them. No. If you go into the workforce, okay, let's say you go into your job, you look at how the older generation would go in. They don't just take their time, they pay attention to details. They go above the call of duty, such as staying 40 minutes past the time when they were supposed to punch out, or kind of just get stuff that other stations need. Okay? This is the type of stuff that you can really get into. But a lot of these young kids, they come in just expecting to do just as little as possible and get the benefits. Just to get the benefits, the money, okay? The respect. And it's interesting because a lot of the senior generations, such as the managers, they look at these young kids as going, okay, you want to do this? Well, here you go. What do you mean you put your 2 weeks in? I give you a job. 2 weeks later, oh, I'm putting in my 2 weeks. What's the point of hiring you? Okay. You see the point. Now, picture the spirits. Picture the demons that Satanists work with, demonolators, Luciferians work with. You look at the more white light practices like Hermetics or Kabbalah type workings, pagan and Wiccan who work with the pantheon gods, or even, say, for example, Christianity. Okay, you call on angels. The Catholics call on angels for safe travels. They call on them for advice. Now, in my last video, I actually disproved this. Okay, this was actually when you're dealing with angels, it's more the fact that they're warriors and messengers. They relay a message directly to the individuals, or they just plain slaughter your ass. The Bible's full of that shit. So Catholics tend to pray towards just about everything, not just a man on a stick. meaning the cross. Okay? Now, what's interesting here is the fact that there's no work ethic. A lot of times when you get into a religious perspective, people always take the easy way out. It's better to be led than to, and to be led by the hand, to follow rather than to lead and take responsibility for your own life, your own actions. Christians tend to give up their free will. They get into that state of brainwashing where it's, how should I say this? Do as I say, not as I do. Every sect within a particular parish has its own brand, its own thought form of what the Bible says and represents. Doesn't matter if it's the elders of the church, doesn't matter if it's the seniors who sit in the back pews talking about everybody, the youth who sit down front, whatever. They all have their own perspective. Okay? Now, when we get into the occult, you see the same manner. In the old days, the occult meant hard work. It meant dedication, commitment, repetition, doing your own homework. This is what makes you a threat to the uninformed, the unenlightened, such as the JCI, the Judo Christian institutions. This is what makes you a threat to them. Not only do you know their own works better than they do, but you actually know the sources to which they came from. You see the point there. So these older generations have done their homework. They've earned every inch of that ground that they've traveled. Okay? This is a work ethic. They didn't just come onto the scene and go, okay, I'm going to read one book. Guess what? I'm a master, I'm a Lord of Darkness. No. They sat there, they delved into it, they dissected it, they did the research, they began to draw the seals, the sigilliums, creations of talismans and amulets through alchemical processes. They reached out, performed rituals and rites, introducing themselves to the spirits. Doesn't matter if it's the jinn, the Orisha, the demonic, or the angelics, or maybe just the ancestral spirits if you're into voodoo. Okay? Either way, they did their homework. They reached out, they introduced themselves, they erected altars to worship them. They literally got into these things to the point where they earned the respect of the spirits. They made pacts, they made deals, something for something. They gave offerings and sacrifices and libations. And the spirits helped them. They helped guide them. They helped shape them in who they are today. But you got these young pups coming in. These young pups, they're arrogant. Christians train. You take City Reach for an example. This is a organization, a cult of JCI. They're more radical. They train their youth to be bullies. And when they don't get their own way, they end up being sneaky. Okay? They had an elder that tangled with me, and he learned his lesson. He literally was left with nothing. Why? Because I knew my shit. I did my homework. I studied my opponent, as Sun Tzu would say. And I directed that in specific mannerisms. such as hexes, curses, condemnations, destruction rituals, and left him with nothing. You too can be a weapon of this sort if you choose to do your homework and put the work in. I'm talking time, blood, sweat, and tears. The left hand path is not one for the faint of heart, it is one of solitary. It is a path that will either make you or break you depending upon how much time and effort you put into it. When you work with certain spirits, let's say Santa Morte, or say, for an example, if you're into Christianity, then you go with their God. Both are said to be very needy, childish like. Now, knowing Santa Morte, as you can see just over my right shoulder, I do work with Santa Morte. Okay? She is a very wise, intelligent console. Okay? She counsels in a lot of ways. She is a provider, a protector. She has a lot of attributes that could benefit a practitioner, a devotee. Okay? Just like, say, Folklore, for an example, who is a lord of and master of necromancy and demonology. He's one of the 72 goetic demons. He's a duke. Ironic, right? But the ironic part is that when you work with him, he will reveal things slowly, but you have to be the one to put the work in. He'll give a hint, he'll give some form of direction, but it's up to you to get off your lazy ass and get out there and do it. A lot of these young pups, they want that little easy button. They want that easy button so they can just go, oops, I'm a master of darkness. I'm a lord of darkness. No, you're not. You're just an idiot. A delusional little peon. It's not worth anybody's time. The gods, when you make a pact, when you make a deal, and you align yourself with that current, they're going to take you at your word. And they're going to not only protect you and guide you and give you knowledge, but they're going to inspire you in a lot of ways that you never thought possible. They're going to give you gifts the more you work with them. And the ironic part is, some people actually break their pacts. They get into, say, Santeria or Pedo Mayumbi, and they make a pact with the Orisha. Okay, and it's ironic because right here you've broken your word, you've broken your pact, and you go into Christianity. Okay, John Ramirez did this. I stated this in other videos, so I'm not going to get into the full details. But he made a pact with his new god, and he broke that pact there too. So here he is. He has no protection on either side. He has no guides, no nothing to help him because he's broken his word. He's broken his promises. He's leading the blind, basically. The blind leading the blind. And what's ironic is that when you get into a work ethic and you start building that respect, you start building a reputation, you start becoming that threat, that weapon for that pantheon of gods. Guess what? People are going to take notice. I can't tell you how many times I've had clients come to me. They've come to me and asked me to do spell work for them. They've petitioned me to do spell work. They've come to me and they paid me for my services because of my reputation. People don't know whether I'm going to curse them or I'm going to bless them. In a sense, I become like the some of the nine kings who are known as terrible lords, mighty and terrible lords, but more so as an adept, a student of theirs. Okay. And it's funny because the more you do this, the more you work with them, the more your world's going to rise up. I've had a client which came to me and said, "It is so funny how these closed minded individuals are literally committing what is known as hypocrisy. They're canceling each other out. Every time they act, they do something different. Okay? They say one thing and do something different. So if they're talking about a code of honor, they're showing nothing but disrespect. Disrespect. This cancels out any working that they're doing. It's like those who go into the inner sanctum and they say, "Hey, I'm going to call on the name of Satan. I'm going to call on the name of Lucifer. I'm going to call on the names of Beelzebub and Astaroth. But wait, don't hate me. I don't believe in actual devils. I'm an atheist." So guess what? This is more of a psychopump. You just canceled out everything that you're doing. Just canceled it right out. This is like saying you're a Christian but believe in witchcraft. Okay? You're a practicing witch and a practicing Christian. Okay? You're canceling out your works. This is why so many people come onto social media and they're sitting there going, "Hey, why is this not working? How come I can't get benefits from doing this?" What did I just say? You've canceled out every single working because of your own actions. Again, going back into a work ethic. Work ethics means you have a creed that you live by. If you go by the witch's creed, the witch's oath, the witch's pyramid, the same damn thing, there is no illusion there. It is the exact same thing. Okay? Then you're gonna you're going to dare to go out and you're gonna dare to study. You're gonna dare to seek out that knowledge. Okay? Therefore, by knowing you have the will to go out and to do this and dare to do this, guess what? You get to keep secret everything that you've learned and use it wisely within your practice, your art. You don't want to give away your power. Okay? That's why when most people argue with me, I'll simply state facts. I'm not going to argue with you. What does arguing do? Absolutely nothing. Therefore, somebody wants to argue with you, just say, take after Patrick Swayze, Roadhouse. Opinions vary. Fact. You'll catch on to that reference later on in your career when you become a threat. But for right now, I want you to think about something. What kind of practitioner do you want to be? Do you want to be one of these everyday commoners, these wannabes, these armchair and computer illiterate type practitioners that hide behind a screen, talk big words behind a keyboard? Or do you want to sit there and better yourself, evolve, master not only yourself, but your world so that you can benefit yourself your families, and your clients through knowledge, wisdom, and your connections to those spirits. My advice is get a found, how should I say this? Get a firm foundation underneath you. All right. The best, I had a minister that I was talking to a little over 10 years ago. I sat down with him and we were talking. He told me some interesting things, and I'll tell you why. He said, if you're ever looking to get married, you don't go out and get a woman and you don't start a family immediate. No, you want to have a firm foundation. This means you have to have a job. The job allows you to get the home and the car. Okay. Only then can you get the woman to start a family. Okay. You see that chain of events. Now think about this way within your magical workings. Okay. You have to go out and you have to learn the materials. This means you have to get the books. You have to become the student, the adept within the arcane. You have to get in touch with the spirits to begin your journey. You have to make the pacts, the deals, and align yourselves to both that particular current into those spirits. Only then can you begin your journey into enlightenment. The education. And I've always said that education is the biggest thing out there that makes you the weapon. It makes you the threat. Okay? And I want you to remember that. The chain of events. Okay? This leads us into the other things. Okay? Such as how did you spell work? How to perform necromancy or divination, even spiritual conjurations. It all begins with your studies into witchcraft, into sorcery. Only then can you go into necromancy, to learn about necromancy. Then go into divination. How do you conjure a spirit? How do you reanimate a spirit? Okay? Corpse divination. Everything has a particular set of events. Every decision you make has ripple effects across the galaxy, across the universe, the dimensions, even. As a Satanist, as a practicing necromancer, I can tell you that my studies through the spirits have been very intense over the last couple of years. Very, very intense. I'm talking about the studies. It took me 6 months to find one spirit from a particular pantheon. Okay? That was spelled a lot different than what it actually was in folklore. Okay? And when I began to work with that spirit, it led me into the old pantheons. I'm talking the Proto Germanic, the Slavic, the Baltic regions of the world. Took me into Slavic witchcraft, which led me into voodoo, Haitian voodoo, which in return led me back into Santeria and Pedro Mayumbi. Okay. And then, like a full circle, brought me right back into black magic and witchcraft, Satanism, demonolatry. Okay. I have at least three journals full of knowledge just over the last 2 years, just from my studies and practices. It's not something that is done overnight. And I think a lot of people make the mistake that there's an easy button to this. There's not. You have to actually go out and put the work in. We don't have the luxury of numbers. Therefore, you have to be the individual. You have to be the adult. You have to sit there and take responsibility for your own root workings, your own path workings, your own practices, your own studies. Nobody can do your homework for you. Let me ask you this. When you were in high school, did your teachers do the work for you, or did you have to do it? When you were little, did your family help you to walk, or did you have to learn to crawl before you walked? When you became an adult, did you have to learn to take care of yourself through what you learned in high school? Or did your family give you all kinds of advice or an inheritance so that you can live comfortably? You see, not everybody is made out to have a family inheritance. Not everybody has family and in blood that steps up to do your homework. You are the one that goes out and studies. You are the one that applies your studies to your magical practices. The more you focus and discipline you have in it, the more commitment that you have, the better. Don't let minor things of the world get into the way of that. You're going to have these Christian types that are going to come in and pray for your salvation. You're going to have all these types saying, well, you're going to go to hell. You don't want to go to hell, do you? Well, if they actually knew where hell came from, they wouldn't be preaching that shit. But my point is there. I want to thank Holly for jumping on here with me. I want to thank Stefan for coming on here. I just realized he's been posting here, or commenting, I should say. And let's see. Yeah, that's actually true. Stefan says these new people coming in do not understand this, and this is not the wizarding world of Harry Potter. You know, the funny thing is, I'm glad he brought that up because of the fact that since Harry Potter came out, just about every profile on Facebook that you get under studied at Hogwarts. I shit you not. The next time you get a friend request on Facebook, I want you to go underneath their profile. I want you to look down through their information. Trust me, some of the shit that they post on there, hilarious, and it's underneath their supposed resume. Okay, I'm glad that era's come to an end, or just about to an end. It's very annoying. People are getting the reality mixed up with fiction and sci-fi. Let's see. Exactly. And it's funny because when we get into Hermeneutics in the Kabbalah, there's a little thing called the microcosm versus the macro. Microcosm is the little god. That is you, the man. Okay? Think of this as your consciousness. Okay? Your waking consciousness. The macrocosm is the big god. Okay? This is your subconscious, the alpha state of mind. This is things that you can tap into and learn how to tap into. This is where all kinds of special abilities come into play. Psychic readings, for an example, mediumship, empathic abilities. Okay? Telepathic abilities. All of this stuff comes from that alpha frame of mind. All right? And Stefan is correct in that aspect. Okay? Where the gods only do what man's higher self can do for himself. Israel Regardie. Okay? And that is a fact. Okay? Even in the Bible, it says in chapter 3, verse 5 and 22. I'm going to start with 22. Okay? In the book of Genesis. That's chapter 3, verse 22, and chapter 3, verse 20, and verse 5. Chapter in the verse 22, it says, "And God said, Here is man who has become like one of us, lest he put his hand forth and partake of the tree of life and live forever, eat and live forever and ever." Okay. Now, if we go back to verse 5, it says why he did not permit man to eat, therefore, of that tree. It was because he feared that if you ate of that tree of knowledge of good and evil, life and death, you would surely become as gods, knowing the difference between good and evil. Why do you think Christians fight so hard to keep you away from witchcraft? Give you that alternative hypocrisy of he's the only way, but yet you can't do it yourself. It is to keep you to serve on your knees as a slave, so that you can be like Oliver Twist and go, "Please, sir, I want some more." Why serve a god when you can become a god? It's called self mastery. It's called self evolution. It takes a lifetime, sometimes lifetimes, and I'm talking multiple lifetimes, depending on how many times you come back to master these things. It is the way it is. Very few practitioners actually understand what I'm saying here. Others will take it at face value. But most of you that come in will take points, probably take notes, and go, all right, I'm going to look some of this stuff up. Okay. Do you know how many people have actually put out great works? You take, let's say, for example, the book Hermeneutics. Okay. It's an old book from, I want to say, around 2011, I think. If you can get past all the dogma in it, it's actually a pretty instructional guide to self mastery, to higher thought forms, and methods of forging yourself to become a better medium, a better spiritualist. Yet, you got people like Alistair Notch. Okay, Alistair Notch. The overall benefit of the individual, you, how to master your satanic sorcery. And he literally teaches you. He teaches you this stuff. And when you get into, say, for example, let's go with the ONA, the Order of the Nine Angles. Traditional Satanism goes all the way back to the 18th century, with rumors that they supposedly go as far back as the 17th. Now, personally, I have not proven that aspect. I found a few links on Google about it, but that's about it. But when you get into the sinister tradition, you get into some of their other works, you learn that physical fitness, challenging yourself, also is a good thing, especially when you are applying that challenge, not only to benefit your mind, but your body, your spiritual and magical workings. It all plays into effect. You get into Vococalacus Aureax, the book of the Divine Black Flame of Satan, for an example. Very good book. It is a book of vampirism within form or guise of Satanism. How to become a vampiric practitioner. Very enlightening. I've come across very few books that really get you to really contemplate and think about who you are what you are, and where you want to be. Phosphorus was one of them. Came out back in, I think, 2011 sometime. It was a very good book of necromancy. Very, very contemplative, very, very intuitive, and really get you thinking about your practices. Very few books like Paul Huzon, Mastering Witchcraft, unbiased, teaches you the arts of witchcraft, the practices, the tools. Hell, even Anton Zandor LaVey, his Satanic Bible actually shows you the tools that a practitioner uses. You get underneath YouTube and you type in rituals of the occult, and you're going to come up with videos with all these elaborate altars. I'm talking probably something that's worth $10,000, if not more. Okay, that's been built up over time. Hell, I've shown my altars right here on my channel. Not much. 4 candles, podium, certain objects. It's uncluttered. You don't need something that's going to be so elaborate that you got barely any room to do your rituals. You want room to spread out. Plain and simple. Having a work ethic, such as a daily routine of coming in and meditate, a daily routine of giving offerings and sacrifices to those you serve, that you work with, such as the spirits, coming in at least once or twice a week and cleaning your altar room. This is something that becomes a work ethic. Okay? Praying and devotion becomes a part of the work ethic. When you go to your job, do you know how much this stuff even applies there? So many people get stressed out at work. They have emotional outbursts out of nowhere, sometimes fits of rage, paranoia, or even to the point where they're bottomed out. If they learn to meditate, to study, and to petition the gods to work in the background, I wonder where they'd be today. You know what I'm saying? This is why it's important to have a work ethic. A work ethic. It's not for show and tell. We're not Christians. We don't make millions of dollars in a run of a year. This isn't something that's done for popularity. This is a personalized journey. And only you can dictate what ethic you put forth. Only you. Afro Root Witch just put forth an interesting question. Question about vampirism. What pros and cons of vampirism? I wonder. That's a very interesting question. Now, let's take a couple looks here. Let's look at two factors. First factor. Let's take the leech effect. You look at Facebook. How many of those Facebook friends do you actually talk to? Do you associate with? They kiss your ass on a every day, on a run of every day. Okay? Just sit there and post blue thumbs up, a heart. Or better yet, how many of them actually comment and engage you Okay? Those who do not do the engaging are known as leeches. Most of them are just a waste of space. This is because they're more followers. Okay? Most of them are not here to learn. They're not here to rise from the ashes like a phoenix. No. These people are only interested in draining your energy. Have you ever gotten a friend request, somebody wanting to talk to you about how do I join Satan? How do I become an initiative of Satanism? And when you reply back, it's, well, how do I become a part of the Illuminati? How do I join Satan to become part of the Illuminati? How do I do this, become rich and famous? What have I just said in this video? It's not a get rich quick path. It is not a popularity contest. It's not. These two things don't go hand in hand. These types of people are what Anton Zandaleve described as psychic vampires. Okay? Their only goal is to divert your attention. Their only goal is to drain you. You're giving your power to these idiots. Okay? But now let's take a look at the more positive aspect of vampirism. When you learn to channel energy, when you learn to channel energy, you're able to take energy from one location or one being and transfer it to another. When you hear of healers, spiritual healers, the laying on of hands, this is the practitioner's will. Okay? You could sit in a field and channel the natural currents of that field. You can go into the woods and channel that current into yourself through breathing exercises. When you go to heal a client or to direct energy towards a client, such as a jinx, a curse, a hex, or even healing, okay, you are, in fact, channeling energy. This is a form of vampirism. When you're breathing, you're inhaling this positive energy, this chi. And when you exhale, you're taking that negative energy, that draining effect, and you're giving it to somebody else. You're putting it out there into the void. Okay? So let's say, for an example, somebody comes to you and asks you to, let's say, for an example, heal their knee to take the pain away. How would you do that? Afro witch, root witch. How would you do that? Okay? You have to channel the energy. Where does that energy come from? In this case, you would be using your own energy and applying it to your client. You're taking their energy and you're stripping them of that to put your energy into it, into them. It's that energy manipulation, that current. You're taking it from one and giving it to another. So, right there, that's the pros and cons of it. You can easily utilize a current. Like, say, for an example, let's take somebody that's dying of cancer. Okay? You have an enemy that you want to put down. You can utilize that person's energy, that sad, that scared fear, that hopelessness, that sadness, that cold, dead, diseased, rotting corpse. And you can take that essence and you can apply it in a cursing jar. You take your target, your victim. You apply certain occult knowledge, tools, rusty nails. For an example, I recommend railroad spikes. Okay, a photo or some form of effigy of that individual that you want to die. Use certain things like sulfur powder, black sand, black salt, rock salt. Let's say, for example, lavender, patchouli, dragon's blood, myrrh, things of death. Maybe a chicken foot to ground their feet. Either way, you're grounding them and you're applying that essence onto them through sheer will. You're directing that current, that energy through you, through channeling, and you're focusing all that intent, that will, onto that enemy. Another form of psychic vampirism. When you're out in public, think of everybody that you touch in a run of a day. How many people do you shake hands with? How many people do you bump into? Do you know if you learn how to channel that energy, you can actually take from them to recharge your own battery? Most people don't know that. It's a form of vampirism. It's the complete opposite of those leech effects. You're doing it for you, whereas they just do it just for shits and giggles. That's the pro and con aspects of vampirism. And I do recommend learning it. So, well, you consider, Stefan, since I did that one video, I've been called a devil. I've been called the Antichrist. I've been called evil. I've got literally about 1.7K viewers on that one video. You know, the church looks at me as a heretic. I am a threat to them because I dared to call John Ramirez out on his shit. Why? Because I was asked to do an honest, earnest video upon him within my own views and thoughts. And I've been attacked every single day, multiple times a day, by these morons. Oh, I'm going to pray for you. Ooh, wow, whatever. No skin off my nose. You're wasting all that energy while I'm sitting back and absorbing the attention. Another form of vampirism, by the way. Afro Root Witch. You're welcome. So, yeah, having a work ethic fits into a lot of different areas. Not just your home front, not just your work, not just your magical journey. Only you can come up with it. You got to find out what fits for you. For me, it was the Nine Noble Virtues with a satanic philosophy. Eventually, I got into a system that really benefited me with a type of code and ethic that there is no denying that it works. Exactly, Akalone. Crazy people. And it is. But you got to remember that a lot of people don't realize this is until they're free of the brainwashing. You look at when you call somebody out, especially a Christian, their way of doing things is on one hand, one person will come at you. If you ignore that person, then they'll come with two people. And then they'll just simply, it's an all out assault. Okay, normally they'll just shun you after the second. But if you really piss off that individual, in this case, that's what I did. I really pissed off John Ramirez. Okay. I got no issues calling him out on as a betrayer. He's an oath betrayer. He's a break. He broke every single oath that he's ever done. Doesn't on the left hand path and the right hand path. He's continuing to manipulate people for money, and all in the name of religion. And a lot of people don't realize that people like this, it's not a religion. It's not even associated with the occult. All this is a cult, as in U. How should I say this? CULT. 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 Not think think of Manson and his family. That's a cult. Okay. The occult, on the other hand, would be Aleister Crowley, Edward Arthur White, John Dee and Edward Kelly. You see the point? This is the occult. The occult. We're not a cult. We're individuals who master our own destinies. We literally take that destiny by the balls, give it a big old twist, and master it. It takes a long time. It's the way it is. We grow, we mature, we find deeper connections of spiritualism. Christians remain the same. They literally stay so stagnant. They haven't changed in 2,500 years. In fact, over the last 1,000 years, they've really stayed stagnant. You do your homework on the burning times, the witch trials, the crusades. They have more blood on their hands than Satan would ever have. And yet he's the bad guy. Why? Because in Hebrew, Satan means adversary. You go into Hebrewism, tempter, or Judaism, it means tempter. You get into Islam, it means accuser. Overall, in the JCI, he is the adversary, the opponent, the opposer. Why do you think they hate us so much? Why do you think they condemned witchcraft of any kind? In fact, why did the Pharisees hate Jesus? Think about that. That's out of the Bible, by the way, the four Gospels. Why did they attack him and try to call him out, try to trick him so many times, only to fail and have him crucified? When they realized they couldn't control him, they had to control the people. Now, every time you step out of your shell and you attack a Christian, have you ever wondered why so many flock in defense, in defiance towards you? It's because you kicked up dust. You became the adversary, the accuser. Same thing. Same. The world changes, but people stay the same. This is why it's up to you as the individual, you as the individual, to step up, form a work ethic, find your path, delve into your path, research and study your path, master your path, your craft, serve the spirits and the gods that you work with, and remain true to who you are. Plain and simple. And with that said, I want to thank Pharaoh Stiller, Serpent of Sophia, Accolone, Afro Root Witch, let's see, Stephen Clark, and Holly for jumping on here with me. And I also noticed that we have Serpent of Sophia on here. I don't think I've seen you on my channel before. I think this is the first time you've been on one of my channels, one of my videos. I may be wrong, so if I am, I do apologize. Let's see. Serpent of Sophia says, any gnosis on overcoming uh, Fantasia. I have been working with Lilith Blind because the pull is so immense. Thanks, bro. Well, you're welcome. And she said, she just posted and said, what's really messed up is how they turned most paganism upside down to the point of changing the myths to have Thor slaying the serpent as the All-Father. Part of what drove me to the left-hand path, which is true. I mean, just about every path working that you've seen, it's not just in paganism. You go into Zoroastrianism, you have Ahriman versus the Ahura Mazda. You go back into Sanskrit, the Dead Sea Scrolls, you have Belial versus Michael. Okay, you have in angelology, you have Lucifer versus Michael. Okay, in cuneiform. And today you have God versus Satan. Okay. A lot of individuals really do not understand this aspect. When you look at the inverted cross today, it's associated with Satanism. Okay. But what most people do not realize is that St. Peter did not want to die in the same way his God did, meaning Jesus Christi, Jesus Christ. Okay. So he chose to be crucified invertedly. Okay, on an inverted cross. It's kind of like taking the pentagram of Wiccan and pagan traditions and turning it into an inverted symbol for devil worship. Same exact thing. Which is why it's so important to know your folklore and to know your history, mythology, even. When you get into it, you can even go into Slavic witchcraft and you get Chernobog versus Belobog. Go into ancient Greek and you have Phosphoros versus Hespios. Hespios being the dark god or the dark star, and Phosphoros being the day star. Okay, Zeus versus Hades, for an example, or Ra versus Set or Seth. Okay, or even Thor versus Loki in a lot of cases. Either way you look at it, just about every tradition has a light aspect versus a dark aspect. The Necromaicon, you have Marduk, who was actually a third generation child of Tiamat, the dragon of chaos. And he ended up slaying his own mother, his own grandmother, basically, to become the ruler of the 9 levels of heaven or celestial realms. So, I mean, whatever tradition you get into, you're going to see this, especially over the last 2,500 years. But if you go back to, say, let's say, for an example, let's go back to the 6th century, okay, BC. This is before Christ, okay. You're going to see a lot of proto cultures that had different commonalities and differences within their perceptions. It wasn't until the monotheistic age that you had good versus evil. So how would you know that if you didn't do your own homework? All right. So I want you to think about this stuff. I want you to think about having a work ethic. I want you to think about doing your own homework within history and mythology, but also archaeology. Trust me, a lot of this stuff it plays into a huge effect. It doesn't matter if you're studying South American folklore, North American folklore, or even ancient world. such as Babylonia, Sumeria, Akkadian, Syriac, or just plain Middle Eastern or Asian. It's all there. Get into Mesopotamia and you're going to see Pazuzu going up against Lamashtu. So who's the evil one and who's the good one? The JCI basically refined it. They've mastered the art of manipulation, the sleight of hand trick, the brainwashing techniques, the entrapments. Plain and simple. That's why it's important to back up what you preach and always make yourself available to the public. You know, what's ironic is some of these Christians asked me to sit down with John Ramirez. In a video I did, what was it, last week, I think, or just earlier this week. I literally sat here for 2.5 hours waiting for him to come on. I called his ass out and I told him, come on in. Your followers want me to sit down with you. Come on down. He didn't have the balls to come onto this channel with me. And yet his followers are sitting there going, well, then we'll decide who's who. Yeah. Do your homework. It's very important. It is you who puts the applications forth, not someone else. Everything's handed to you on a golden platter when you're into Christianity and the JCI, the Judo Christian institutions. Here in the left-hand path, you are the one that's responsible for where you take your magics, where you develop your persona and who you're going to be, who you desire to be, and how you go about getting to that point. You and you alone. It's called a worth ethic. Well, to be fair, Luciferian, depending if you're talking about the witchcraft aspect or the satanic Luciferianism, both are pretty good. But I find that Luciferianism as a path working of witchcraft is actually quite powerful. And it is okay to delve into more than one system. So, in fact, some of the old practitioners that I mentioned earlier literally brought on characteristics from various different traditions. Look at Eliphas Levi, necromancy, Hermetics, Kabbalah, Middle Eastern traditions, European traditions mixed in. You look at, say, for example, Aleister Crowley. One hell of a man. That guy knew the Bible better than just about everybody today. And he was a dark arts practitioner. So I mean, it is okay, and I want people to understand that it is okay to reach out to other traditions. You just don't want to do it too much. You really want to sit there and become comfortable with it. You want to actually get a firm foundation in it, a firm understanding of each tradition that you get into. Not just study it, but also practice it and apply it to your life. Not everything you're going to agree with, of course, but should be a good portion of it that actually does apply to you in your magical workings. So, have you tried oneomancy? Or, say, for an example, meditation, okay, with mantras. Try the half lotus or the full lotus. Get into Hermetics. Very good stuff there, especially in that area. Over the last 6 months, or I should say within the last few months, I've been practicing a lot with the lotus position. Now, I haven't been able to get my legs into that locking minute, that locking stage due to having former injuries to my knees. So I'm slowly getting there through stretching and meditation, yoga, and getting into weightlifting, cardiovascular activities to help loosen up the joints to help. But breathing exercises really help, and learning to relax while you're doing that. You can really start out with the half lotus and having your hands in certain locations like this, you know, like this. Let me lean back here so you can actually see it like this, or like this, okay? Or even in your lap like this, okay? Notice where my thumbs are, okay? But down into your lap, okay? You can even this type of thing, okay? If you're into the lotus aspect, work on your breathings. Have a mantra that'll help you get into that relaxed state. Counting back from 10 to 0 and then 14 to 0 while breathing really helps you. Okay? Learn to open yourself up and to let go. Your body is going to be doing things that's unnatural at first. So you're really learning to let go. It's kind of like astral projection. When you're getting ready to astral project, your body gets all tingly and light and you end up getting jerky. You know what I'm saying? But in this case, you're dealing with the mind, and that's the thing you got to conquer. You're going to have thoughts, random thoughts. Instead of trying to block them out or to deal with them, why don't you be like a third party and observe them? Okay. And when you are conjuring or trying to bring up, say, a spirit, for an example, or you're trying to envision something that's far away, I want you. One of the techniques that you can do is to just close your eyes and kind of envision it. Okay, think about it. Speak a little bit upon it. Like, for an example, you speak the person's mind, or you're feeling the vibrations from heavy metal music or that of classical music, such as Bach, Chopin, Mozart, Beethoven, or that of, say, for an example, let's go with AC/DC, Five Finger Death Punch, or even, whatever music you get into. And you just fully relax, and your mind does the rest, and you just kind of feel yourself drawn to something distant. Let it go. Just let yourself go. Okay? Calm your mind, calm your body, and just let it flow naturally. Bruce Lee once said that water is the softest stuff in the world, but yet it can fit into any container. I want you to take this Serpent of Sophia. Okay, I want you to think about this for quite heavily. Okay, when you are meditating and you're trying to envision, I don't. Let's say, for an example, you're trying to envision a certain spirit. Let's say, for an example, folklore, or say, for an example, let's say Belial. Belial is renowned for showing up with ministers, okay, with a welcoming party. Okay, so in this instance, it would behoove you to have his seal out so you can look at that seal. Okay, you may even have a scrying mirror or a divination bowl, something that will help you focus your intent. Look at your natural element. I recommend this. As somebody whose natural element happens to be fire, I work with fire a lot. Okay, I'm talking fire, as in flames. I love fire. I love the flames. So I have numerous candles going, but I always keep one in the center, especially one that I can look at and just stare between the flame and the candle itself. You have that little black spot. Focus there. Help yourself do this. You may even put a dot on a piece of paper and stare at it for like 10 minutes every day without blinking. Just some techniques that will help you to understand and to grow in that area. Eventually, you're going to be able to sit down, meditate, get into that channeling factor, and literally start envisioning what you want to see. Sagittarius. Okay, I would recommend the stones that go along with that. You may want to even look into the black sun. Okay, because Sagittarius falls on the darkest time of the year. Okay, so therefore you want to get into the dark sun. You want to get into the stones that are associated with December. Okay, so kind of like with me, it was rubies, cardinal, fire, passion, the red candles. Okay, long before I developed and learned to these tricks. With Lilith, you want to really get into her folklore and find out what she values. Okay, and go from there. But that's what I would recommend to you. So, but with that said, it's been almost an hour and 15 minutes. Wow. Damn, time flies when you're having fun. I was just looking to do maybe a 15 to 30-minute video. Uh, then I get chatting with all of you, and it's like, well, time flies. But yeah, which is all right. I mean, I like doing this. So, in fact, I'd like to do this more often. So, so there's been a lot of good questions and a lot of good comments here. So, like I said, I want to thank Holly, Stephen Clark, Afro Root Witch, Accolone, Pharaoh Stiller, and Serpent of Sophia. Okay. Thank you for jumping on here with me. Indeed, Sophia. Indeed. And that's the thing a lot of the amateurs will figure out as well. So, along the path, eventually they're going to wise up and start using wisdom and knowledge. But for now, like I said, I'll be back on down the road. Infernal blessings to you too, Serpent of Sophia. In nomine Dinasteri Satanae Luciferi Excelsi. Hail Satan. Have a good night.